Great. Well, welcome everybody. I think we have a couple more candidates that will hopefully show up soon. My name is Michelle Dexter. I'm the president of the Almaden Valley Community Association. I want to thank you all for coming out in this rain. Who knew it was going to start pouring today? So thank you for that. And you should know that we have quite an audience also on Zoom tonight. So there's lots of people interested in this evening. So tonight, we are looking forward to hearing from candidates for the County Assessor's Office, as well as political party leaders for the two issues that are on the ballot. So if that's not what you're here to do, you're in the wrong place. So now, because this is an election event, we do things a little bit differently than we normally do. Normally, we pass out numbers and we take questions from the audience. This time, for questions from the audience, we're going to have, we have 3x5 cards and pencils. So if you have a question for the candidates, if you'll raise your hand, someone will come around and give you a card and a pencil. You can write it down. When you're ready, hold it up, we'll collect it. And then we will deliver them to the moderator who will ask all the questions. Then we have a really full evening with the 4 candidates and then the 2 issues at the end. So we're not, I'm sure we're not going to get to all of everybody's questions tonight, but we'll do the best that we can to kind of combine and get things asked and answered. Please save the date for our November 10th Giving Thanks reception. This is our annual event where we kick off the holiday season with a party and lots of wonderful food from local establishments. And we honor various volunteers from the area who have made an impact to the community through their volunteer service. It's a really fun evening. So we are honored to have our District 10 council member join us each month to provide an update. So please join me in welcoming Councilmember George Casey.
Thank you, AVCA. We're very fortunate to have this organization put on these wonderful civically minded events. I'm going to be really brief. I only have one update. You folks may have heard of, well, take you back a month or two ago, Columbus Park, there was a clearing of a homeless encampment. And as a result, a number of RVs ended up congregating just north of Almaden Lake behind the apartment complex there at the BTA site. Fortunately, working through the county and the BTA, we've identified housing for these individuals. And over the next 2 to 3 days or so, the site will be cleared. So there were roughly 15 RVs there. And hopefully within the next 48 hours or 72 hours, they'll all be removed. Other than that, I don't have any pressing matters at hand, but I'm happy to open up to questions if there are any at the moment. Yes, sir. Oh, about the, okay, right on. All right, well, okay. I don't think formally as a body we have, but I believe if you've read and if the paper reports are true, I believe our mayor and the county's DA and a number of other folks have expressed that they'll be supportive of it. Yes, ma'am. I'm torn on Prop 50. I don't support Measure A though. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, right on. Any other questions? Well, I have the honor. I want to read this verbatim because it's important. A number of parents have reached out to me over the past year and expressed their concern about the mental health of their children, particularly here at Leland and Pioneer. There's a stigma involved with mental health, and it's difficult to get young folks to reach out. And we don't have mental health practitioners on our campuses, so it's a growing issue. And over the years, I know you guys have probably heard of it over in Palo Alto in different school systems, young kids committing suicide under the stress of doing well. So this young man, an impressive young man, Max Nguyen, and I'm going to read the recognition. It's in recognition of his contributions to the San Jose community, through his nonprofit Wellness Play, which supports youth mental health and well-being by curating cooperative gaming activities, promoting healthy time limits, and positive gaming standards of conduct, building a supportive intergenerational gaming relationships and uplifting youth voices. So if you guys could join me in putting your hands together for Max. Max, come on up. Thank you. And if there are no more questions, I will leave it back to Michelle.
All right, thank you very much, council member. Let's thank him for being here this evening. All right, well, we are still missing 2 candidates. It's going to be a quick forum. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over this evening to our moderator, who is Jane Fromer from our program team. And Jane, do you have a microphone up there?
I have a microphone
Very
here.
good.
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you. And we have our timer here tonight. Apurva is our timer this evening.
Good evening. Oh, my goodness. We will proceed, although, Michelle, we have some rules that the other 2 should know about, so I might reorganize a little bit the course of events by telling you short bios on our 4 candidates before going over the timing rules for the evening, since all 4 will need to know the timing rules for the evening. Our program tonight will be divided into 2 sections. The first hour will be with our 4 candidates for the Santa Clara County Tax Assessor position, which has been vacated by Larry, who has been our tax assessor for as long as most of us can remember. Second half of the evening will be to consider the other 2 issues that are on the November 4th special election ballot. Those will be Measure A and Proposition 50. And for those, we've invited some specialists to explain to us and educate to us the pros and cons of those 2 items on the ballot on November 4th. So we have a full evening with our 4 candidates and then our 2 teachers, and we'll be sticking to a schedule and moving along. So I will jump straight ahead to the introduction of the 4 candidates, 2 in absentia, 2 in person. We have heard from one of the candidates that he's nearby. The second one, well, it seems that Rishi Kumar will not be joining us this evening. That's the latest status update. And that Brian Doe is on the road and nearby. So let's start by introducing our 2 present candidates. Ying Zhao. She currently holds a position as a council member in Saratoga. She was the former mayor of Saratoga and former planning commission member. She holds bachelor's and master's degrees in electrical engineering, and she previously worked in the semiconductor industry. Nasa Fligor, am I pronouncing that correctly? Good enough? There we go, thank you. Her current position is as Los Altos vice mayor, and she's also current assistant to the Santa Clara County Assessor, overseeing day-to-day operations of the assessor's office. She holds a law degree from Georgetown, and she previously worked as a lawyer for Hewlett-Packard and in the Santa Clara County Council's office. Soon to be seen is Brian Doe. Brian currently is serving as president of the Board of Trustees of the East Side Union High School School District. He was elected in 2020 and re-elected in 2024. And as I mentioned, Rishi Kumar, who will not be joining us today, is a former Saratoga council member who holds a mechanical engineering degree and previously worked in private industry and as a board member and delegate of the California Democratic Party. Now, you might all have in front of you their bios, as I just read to you tonight. Instead of using PowerPoints, we have flyers or handouts. And so you can take those with you with the information that I just mentioned. What is the role of the Santa Clara County Tax Assessor? Well, you might be correcting me on some of these points as candidates, but as I've learned it, you oversee an office of approximately 250 employees with an $8 billion budget that assesses the value of over 500,000 properties. The duties of the assessor's office include determining property values for tax purposes, evaluating properties, maintaining assessment rolls, processing appeals and disputes over assessments, administering tax exemptions per eligibility, and managing technology systems to carry out assessments and administration. The Santa Clara County Tax Assessor serves a 4-year term with no term limits. Okay, that's our background. Shall we proceed? Yeah. I'm going to tell you about the evening's course of events in terms of timing. The candidates will open by presenting 2-minute statements each. I think Brian's just arrived. Let's give him a moment to take the stage. Yes. After the candidates present their opening statements of 2 minutes each, I, as the moderator, will present collected questions that I've collected before the meeting to all of the candidates. Each candidate has 1 minute to respond to each question. There'll be an optional 30-second rebuttal. If indeed there's a rebuttal, there's no need to feel obligated to rebut. And you needn't all have rebuttals. I don't know what the verb of rebuttal is. I will try to rotate the order of answering questions. We'll have a total of 3 or 4 questions, depending on the timing. We'll then open the questions to the audience. And the way that we're handling the audience questions, both in person and Zoom this evening, is that you'll submit your questions on index cards. You see index cards and pencils on the table. Once you've written your question, please hold it up and a runner will come get it from you. They will aggregate them and they'll bring them up to me and I'll read your questions. One of the purposes of aggregating them is that often there are overlapping questions, and so they'll first be combined by topic. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer each of the audience questions as well. And there'll be a 1 minute, If one question comes in specifically to one candidate, then that candidate has 1 minute to respond and the others have an optional 1 minute to chime in as well. And we hope to have a total of about 4 questions from the audience. There we go, so they can see you for that section as well. Candidates will present concluding statements of 1 minute each. Now, the most important job in the evening belongs to this young woman who has a red paddle and a yellow paddle. She's the timer. She's the one who's going to keep us on track. Speakers, a yellow paddle means you have 36 seconds remaining in your time. A red paddle means time's up. Please respect those boundaries so that we can move through the evening. At around 8:10, we will thank you, candidates, and we'll welcome the 2 speakers. We'll have a couple minutes for a turnaround before we move on to Measure A and Proposition 50. Okay. Let's get started with our candidates' introductions, self-introductions. Brian, I already gave a brief background on each of you, including your background, but it was very brief. So feel free in your 2 minutes apiece to go into more detail about yourself. We'll start with Ying.
Hello, my name's Yan. Hello? Can you hear me okay? Hello, my name's Yan Zhao. I'm running for County Assessor because I believe it's time for real change. Time for new leadership who will put residents first, who will bring accountability and transparency to this office. As we all know, this County Assessor's office has been running on the same computer system for 40+ years. Currently, it takes an average of 2 years to resolve appeal. Our residents deserve better, and we can and must do better. My vision is to bring this office to the 21st century, modernize outdated system, improve customer service, and make this office more efficient, accessible, and transparent. You may hear my opponent say she's the only candidate with the required certification. The truth is that certification is only available to assessor's office employees. I have already taken the same exact training, and I will receive the same exact certificate once elected. In fact, I'm the only state licensed appraiser in this race with the most professional training and hands-on experience. I have the professional appraiser's license from Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers. As a trained computer engineer with the degrees in electrical engineering and computer science from UC Berkeley and Santa Clara University, I know how to use technology to improve efficiency and customer service. My goal is simple: to improve people's life, to make this office work better for everyone, provide accurate, fair, transparent, and responsive service for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for being here. And thanks to the Almaden Valley Community Association for hosting us. And hats off to all of you who braved the rain to be with us here this evening. And I hope you can hear me. Nisa Flagger, running to be the next county assessor. And I'm running to ensure the office continues to work for taxpayers and residents. Based on my qualifications, experience, and leadership acumen, I am ready on day one to lead this office. My experience includes being the attorney for the assessor's office for 3 years, where I advise them on the laws, since most of what we do in the office is governed by laws, and also successfully defended appeals brought by Silicon Valley corporations and others. My experience also includes being a member of the executive management, first as special assistant to the assessor, and now I'm assistant assessor leading the office as the second in command, as the Mercury News said when it endorsed me. With regards to qualifications, there's only one certification that qualifies someone to be a California assessor, and that is the property tax certification. And I am the only candidate with that certification, regardless of what you may hear from other candidates. And leadership acumen, I'm vice mayor on the Los Altos City Council. In my 7th year, I've served as mayor and council member. But in addition to that, I have held regional leadership across the county. I have been president of the Cities Association of Santa Clara County. That includes all cities, including San Jose. This is the leadership I bring to the office, and it easily distinguishes me from the other 3 candidates. But in addition to that, you'll also hear all 3 candidates doing one of 3 things. They're saying they're going to do things that I am already doing. I rejoined the county and the executive management team last year, and I got to work immediately, and I'm already modernizing the office. You'll also hear them say they're going to fix things that aren't broken. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, I just want to thank the organization for hosting this event. Thank you. And thanks for all of you for being here in this rain. And frankly, I didn't expect such an incredibly wonderful group of audience who are so enthused about a subject involving county assessor. You know, most people would not find it very exciting, but so I thank you for being here. And frankly, to be honest with you, I'm not very good at bragging about myself. I'm an introvert. I'm a quant. I'm a data analyst. Whatever you want to call me, but I'm frankly not very good at bragging about my work. But 5 years ago, I ran for school board in the middle of COVID because I want to protect the future of education. I want to make sure that the district become more fiscally responsible. So when I was elected to the board, I leveraged my own experience as a former project manager, deploying management information systems, and my own experience as a former tech entrepreneur who works and process, frankly, is still being used by the United States to provide intelligence to the United States government to combat terrorism, money laundering, and other financial crime. And And so when I got elected, I support approach of a data-driven metrics to measure our performance. I encourage staff to do better by doing more with less, so that we can be more responsive to our students and our customers, which are students and the member of the publics. And I think we've done that. We've done that process. In fact, in the last few years, we went from a district was, always struggling financially to, and essentially now we are far more responsive and we are more fiscally we're more fiscally sound than ever before. We make progress in multiple fronts. And if I'm elected your next county assessor, I intend to bring all the same process, the same success that we have at the school board, where with the budget is about $400 million, about 10 times the size of the office of assessors, and about 2,000 employees to 20,000 students. Bring that same success so that we can be far more responsive and resilient.
Thank you. And we'll move now into questions. Once again, you have 1 minute to answer each question. A paddle will go up halfway through or at 30 seconds. And then rebuttals are offered at 30 seconds each. Lead off with Santa Clara County has a specific challenge of a tech economy, shifting real estate markets and development pressures, for example. How do you balance residential and commercial property owner interests during volatile markets, like when office vacancies rise or when home sales slow, when there's worry that assessments don't reflect market conditions? Brian, let's start with you.
Thank you. The job of the assessor and the office of the assessor is to provide fair, accurate, and consistent. So when the market change, it is incumbent upon the office assessor to reassess. We have Prop 8 for reasons. We want to honor the intention of the public by making sure we make an automatic reassessment. And that should go the same for whether it's residential for business. We live in Silicon Valley. We don't knock a company down. This is where I respectfully disagree with my colleagues on my right, because simply whether it's a company or an individual, we respect them and we do it right. And we do it right by being fair and accurate and consistent. And we make an automatic adjustment when it's the case, especially when the valuation change. We have seen valuation change in the past, and because the real estate is a cyclical business, it is likely to change again. And we want to respect the wish of the public. The vote of the publics when we pass Prop 13. By doing it right, and we get it right, we consistently respond to it.
Thanks for the question. And as assistant assessor, I'm already managing this process. We are tasked under state law to treat all taxpayers, regardless if they're residential, business property owners, or commercial, fairly, equitably, and ensure that we assess their values accurately. We actually are very proactive in the assessor's office to ensure that regardless if you're residential or commercial, you have the information you need to take advantage of our programs and services. So for example, in the case where we have these office vacancies, we are seeing more commercial property appeals being filed with the assessor's office. One of the programs we offer, and we want our commercial property owners to take advantage of this, is an informal review, where they're able to schedule time for free with our staff to understand why and how we arrived at the assessed value, because to the moderator's point, they may see a purchase price and the assessed value may be different, and they have questions about how we arrived at that. We sit down with these property owners and we explain the process. Thank you.
Assessor's office is responsible for assessing all property values, including residential, commercial, industrial, and even agriculture use. Is this office responsible to assess every single property fairly, accurately, and consistently? Currently, there's about $140 billion assessed value tied up in appeal. So that says something about this office. If you do correctly, you won't have this much of appeal cases. So for me, it's important to make sure we treat all properties, apply all laws to each single properties fairly and accurately, and make sure it's transparent to all residents as well as commercial business. Thank you.
Brief rebuttal.
Yes. Thank you. I just want to clarify the record as the only candidate who actually works in the office and understands the appeals process. The $142 billion, that's the value at risk for appeals. It's not tied up. We ensure that the revenue dollars are still going to the recipient jurisdictions, whether they're public schools that receive 44% of the revenue dollars, whether they're the city or the county that relies on the work we do for 38% of their discretionary general fund. These funds are not tied up. These public agencies are receiving the funds they're entitled to. Thank you.
Any other rebuttals? Let's move along to the second question. Macy, you'll be the first to respond to the question. Should the assessor's office play a role in encouraging development, infill, or redevelopment, especially where land use policy is concerned? How do you see assessment policy interacting with housing affordability or planning goals? And are there reforms you would propose to incentivize desired development? I understand it's a multi-question part, so I'll be forgiving.
I will try my best to answer it in 1 minute. So the role of the assessor is not a policy-making or a law-making elected position. It is unlike a school board member or a council member or a supervisor. An assessor, although elected, is there to implement and enforce the state laws that are passed in Sacramento. And so we do not have the authority or the ability to pass policies as you refer to them here. But I will say a lot of the work we do in our office does support housing policies and nonprofit organizations. For example, because we have such valuable data in our office, we have nonprofit organizations in the housing field that rely on us to provide property owner information and data and characteristic files so that they can help house a lot of our residents here in Santa Clara County. But that's one of the different roles we play, but we do not have the authority to pass policy or laws to, advance any of those initiatives you described.
Dan?
Assessor's office is more administrative office, more operational type of office. We apply laws to every single properties, make sure it's assessed fairly and accurately. And this office doesn't have the authority to set any policies I mentioned. And what I want to do is make sure this office is run efficiently and correctly so that we will have more money for schools, for public safety, for more money for counties and cities to solve, the homeless, building shortage issues. So this is what I want to do, to bring technology, to bring efficiency, to bring transparency to this office. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. So although I agree with both of my colleagues that the Office of the Assessors does not have the authority to create new exemptions. We don't have the authority to encourage, but our job is essentially to be accurately, fairly, and consistently providing that. Our role is implementations. But here's what matters. The distinction matters this. If you have numbers of appeals that continue to rise, and if you take a moment to watch a debate about 3 years ago on the League of Women Voters, where the recently retired County Assessor with a candidate running for office, that number that was challenge was $66 billion on the debate. And today is 140 billion or 170? Yeah, $140 billion. Is the trend going up more appeal or is it going down? Well, I would argue that if you look at all the various different debates and the same things, they said that's a technology problem. They have a problem with the appeal going up, the amount going up. And when that appeal going up, there is an impact in reducing the investment being made to the community, because frankly, if you are sorry, I see the.
Any rebuttals? We'll move along to the next question. And by the way, the audience is very interested in this topic. We have quite a few here. I don't think we'll get through them all, so let's move along. Political pressure. Given that Santa Clara County is facing budget pressures, including Measure A's proposed increase in sales tax, how should the assessor's office respond if there's pressure, political or fiscal, to raise assessed values or shift burdens? And what checks would you put in place to guard against politicized assessments? Dan?
again, this office is not a policy office, should be independent, should be fair, should be accurate. That's what I believe this office should be. So in terms of, when talk about the shortage in terms of funding, it's important. We need to modernize the system to make it more efficient, to make it work better for everybody so that, we have more money for schools, for public safeties, for everything. So that's what the reason I want to run and use my experience as a state licensed appraiser, my experience, with the training in the field, as well as my 1,000 hours of appraisal experience to make sure that everything is done correctly. So I'm ready to lead this office to make the changes needed to work better for all of us.
Brian?
Thank you. This office is not a political office. It's about implementations, the law, to be fair, accurate, and consistent. My approach, since I've been on board I've been a board member is I respect the opinion, but at the end of the day, you want to do the job correctly. And what we do in the office matter because how the leadership at the top, how they respond to the politics. And that's one reason why in these elections, I don't chase after special interests. The vote that I care about, the voice that I care about is the voice of those who's affected. That's your voice. That's the voice of everyone whose livelihood are affected when we get it wrong. And I would argue that the job of the office to learn from the mistake that it made. So one thing that I propose is a public dashboard. So you know exactly how many appeals are being on the table, and it's whether you see the trend going up or down, the dollar amount, and whether performer, how long it takes us to response. At the moment, it's 700 days. From the moment that somebody requests for an appeal to the day it's resolved, it's approximately 700 days.
Thank you. You'll hear all candidates refer to laws governing our office because that's exactly what we do in the office. We're governed by state laws, and as the only attorney running for this office and as the former attorney for the assessor's office, I understand the laws, I've defended those laws, and I've advised on those laws. Our job in the assessor's office is not to increase revenue as one or more candidates may infer. Neither is our job to reduce revenue. Our job is to apply the state law and assess each of these properties. And we will do that work and we'll continue to do that work in the assessor's office. Because to the point of the question, it is very serious if you do not have an assessor who acts independent of political pressure. We have a real life example in LA County where the former assessor was arrested because he was giving favors to his friends, his political friends. We cannot have that in the assessor's office. We need people who are ethical and professional. Thank you.
Thank you. It has been brought to light quite strongly that the IT system needs to be updated. You've addressed it to a certain extent, but very briefly, some of the questions coming in from the audience is, could you be a little bit more explicit? This is an expensive and a complicated update. So could you be a little bit more explicit for the sake of maybe our IT nerds? Excuse me. That's a compliment, not an offense. You take it as so do I. So if we could briefly address in greater detail what your thoughts are or plans are to upgrade the system. Brian, we'll start off with you.
First, like I said, I take the IT notes, the compliments. So there are two portions. One is what you see is the management information systems. A few weeks before the special election begins, the county county assessor signed a multi-million-dollar contracts with the vendors. And then, of course, the candidates, go out and in previous forums, she said, yeah, we did it on time and the budgets. We just barely started. You just signed the contract. The implementations and the process of integrating take years. We don't know what the outcome might be. But this is not the first time the Office of Assessor has done that. They have many times before, they have bought the systems, engaged in the system, and then they have, like my colleague to my right said, it was stop and go. Well, how do we know that the process that we did was done in the proper due diligence as should have been done? We don't know that until years from now. So I would encourage, why do right a few weeks before the elections? All of a sudden, you have a brand new system.
Thank you. Based on my legal, assessor knowledge, and tech background, I was able to lead a team of 42 assessor employees to acquire a new modern technology solution for our office. And this is something our office has been working on for years, and we were able to build on that knowledge, lessons learned, and move forward with acquiring this new technology solution. And we've already started implementing this technology solution. And to answer the moderator's specific question about what it will do for our office. So we have been on the 40-year-old COBOL system. And fortunately, we have been able to produce the annual roll every year. But there are definitely areas of improvement, such as increasing functionality, increasing efficiencies, allowing workflows between our divisions that this new modern technology solution will bring. So when other candidates talk about modernizing the office, I am already doing it, and the entire office is behind us, and we intend to make this a success. We cannot afford to interrupt or disrupt this process. We've invested a lot of time, resources, and dollars to make this a success. Thank you.
The former assessor assigned a $30 million system upgrade. That's a 6-year contract upgrade system. So he signed on June 17th, and he resigned on June 24th. Talk about $30 million system upgrade. This is no small task. It needs experience. You need the technology background to make sure to overhaul a 40 years old system. Who's better suited to oversee such a complex, technical project? An engineer or a lawyer? So I think this answer is clear. We're talking about modernize this office, not just technology, but delivering accurate and fair services to all residents. So I believe I am the best candidate to oversee this complex project upgrade. I have done that as an engineer in my professional life, and I will make sure this office is going to deliver the result we deserve for. Thank you.
With all the talk about IT upgrade, there's some concern about maintaining interactions person to person with citizens as well. Please comment on efforts to do the two in parallel. Lisa?
Thank you. I'll start off by saying that if you know the work we do in the assessor's office, it's not technology. We use technology to do the work, but the work we do in the assessor's office are appraisals, audits, assessments, examinations, investigations. We have a breadth of work we do in the office that requires specialized knowledge and expertise. And again, I'm the only one with the qualification to lead that office. With regards to customer service and community engagement, I'm glad you asked that because that's a priority in our office currently. Our customer service rating is 92.8%. We survey and measure everything that we do in the office because we always look for areas of improvement. Technology and AI will not replace the public service, external facing services that we will provide to our residents and will continue to provide. Since I joined the office last year, I've already started working on increasing community engagement, where I come to forums like this, where I want to hear from residents directly on ways we can continue to work together and support each other to ensure that the office continues to serve you. Thank you.
Since I launched my campaign 2 years ago, I emphasize the importance of connecting with residents because historically, this office has done very little outreach. To me, it's important. We need to bring information about property laws, your rights, available programs to the community. We should bring all this, make this information readily available in different language, as well as, establish workshops, educational programs. And I actually mentioned it in my former previous discussion. And we need to bring this educational program to the community, to the community centers, senior centers, as well as, in person, as well as online, so that people get the knowledge they need. Knowledge is power. I'm committed to empower our community to get the information they need and the service they deserve.
This is where Jan and I are in absolute agreement with each other. We need to do a whole lot more than what Nisa had been talking about. to engage the public, engage with you to do a better job. In addition to what Yan had said, I would like also, we developed a small conversation AI to provide customer service on the basic question that 95% of the question you might ask. And then use the allocation of that time for the human being to human interactions so it could have time with you. Right now, if you call the assessor office, the wait time is about 30 to 45 minutes. That's unacceptable. And then if you can't wait, hopefully they get a call back tomorrow. That is also unacceptable. If we can address the simple questions and we can spend more time to human interactions directly so it can be more effective in helping you, that is a better effective use of our resource.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. And I'm rebutting only because I'm the only one who works in the office and actually knows the data. So a couple things just to point out, we already provide all our materials online and in person in different languages. We publish our appeals data multiple times per year. And if you're not able to access it online or you're not part of the email distribution, we're happy to provide it to you. We continue to engage with the community, and that's something I've led starting last year and will continue to do it. Thank you.
I'd like to rebuttal a little bit. So just by a show of hand, how many people in this room actually know what the survey from the assessment office look like? Raise your hand. Anyone? Not a single one. And I have been to the office, when I was doing more active in real estate, I've done it. I've never received that questionnaire. So if you're going to say it's a 92.8, let's see what the questionnaire would look like and who actually gets it. And that's important. And we want to have a public dashboard to actually see metrics of how the performance, how many days it takes for resolve an appeal, how many appeals have been done.
As I mentioned earlier, it takes average of 2 years to resolve an appeal. And for residential, it's a little bit over a year. And talk about last year's annual assessor's report was 120 building assessed value are in appeal. This year, just for 2025, as of today, it's over $142 billion. As you can see, the amount of value are in appeal are growing, continue to grow. So no, we know there's an issue with this office. We need to resolve that as quickly as we should.
Any further rebuttals? Obviously on a hot topic here. Lisa, do you want to speak up?
I can happily clarify, since again, I'm the only one with the experience in the appeals process and can lead this effort. And I know when candidates are running, they have to run on something and they have to identify things they want to change. We have a great office in the assessor's office. There are always areas of improvement. So just to clarify why the value at risk is increasing for appeals, it's exactly what we started out talking about with what's happening right now in the market. If you study the market, you see what's happening with a lot of commercial properties, and they're the highest value properties here in Silicon Valley. And so we are getting more appeals because of these vacancies, because of more remote work, because of people leaving California. There's several reasons why this is happening, and we are working on them. And as the next assessor, I plan to work through this process using my expertise. Thank you.
Given that Nisa repeatedly said she's the only one in the office, so I'm going to have to also ask about her track record. If 3 years ago, the dollar amount was $66 billion. Last year, 120. Now it's 142 billion on the table that is being challenged. If that is the track record, that issues have to be held accountable too. The number of appeals going up, the long delay time going up. Now we're looking at about 2 years, 700 days. From the day that you appeal to the day it's being resolved. If you want to take credit, you also have to be held accountable when there's issues.
So again, let me explain the appeals process. So when these appeals get filed and we're defending the assessed values, the assessor's office has a 95% success rate winning these appeals. In addition to that, so we're able to retain this value at risk we're talking about, because again, we'll have commercial property owners and residential property owners and business property owners file appeals. I'm an attorney. I understand how the legal process works. In addition to winning these appeals at 95% rate, we are also audited by the state every year. And we have a 99.5% success rate there as well, where they audit the work we do. Thank you.
We'll need to wrap this topic up and move along. So very briefly, Brian, and then, yeah, if you'd like.
How many people in this room know how the appeal process works? Raise your hand. Okay, you got one gentleman, by the way. Most of us don't know how. And frankly, most of us will give up in the appeal process. The average homeowner will give up in the process because we are not equipped. Of course, the officer assessor is going to win 95% of the time because most of us are not expert. I don't think the goal of the officer is to beat you 95% of the time. That's not a bragging point. The bragging point is what lesson do we learn so we can do a better job so that we don't even get in a fight with you.
Moving along to a more neutral territory, maybe. For all candidates, do you believe that the assessor should be subject to term limits? Let's see. Yen?
Yes, I believe term limits. As the mayor in city of Saratoga in 2021, we put 2-term limit on the ballot. And in 2022, 80% of our voters approved 2-term limit for the city of Saratoga. So of course, for a county assessor, it's slightly different. I think it requires a little bit longer term, but I would think 3, 4 is more reasonable. It should be a term limit because once someone is in the office too long and he believes that's his office, he's doing his way and forget about this is a public office. So I think it's very important. We need to bring perspective, new technology, a new way of thinking and leading this office. So yes, I do believe we should have a term limit for this office. Thank you.
Brian?
Yes, absolutely. The recently retired assessor were here when office before the internet boom. Technology have changed dramatically in 30 years. The last thing I ever want to do is be in an office and be so comfortable that I think that's my seat and that I get to select the next assessor. I want to be the kind of assessor who's always constantly working harder and not only just the energies, but the passion to make the job better, continuous improvement. Once you're in a job 30 years, it's a little tougher to be continuously making things better. And so I do hope that the public support the idea of a term limit.
So I also support term limits. I've been asked so many times by voters when I'm considering who to elect for assessor or what the qualifications should be, what should I consider? And I've always shared that the most important thing is to ensure you select someone who has the qualifications and experience to govern that office well. Because regardless of where you are on a policy issue, we need to make sure that the assessor's office is able to maintain stability in the office while moving us forward with modernizing technology, increasing community engagement, and supporting our staff. This is not the tech sector. This is county government. It is very different. As someone who's worked in the tech sector and the government, it is very different. And so we need to make sure that this office is well run so the revenue dollars that we rely on to provide vital services such as public safety, parks, roads, healthcare, that process is not interrupted with not having the right leadership in the office. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have the final question here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I rebuttal? Yeah,
you have
just real
rebuttal,
quick.
yes.
The assessor's office is so important. I believe it should be chosen by voters, not political insider. We all know what happens, why we have this special election. Because someone just trying to pass this office to a political insider. We need to make sure this office, is elected by people, not by political insider. So that's how I want to make sure people understand why we have this special election today.
Any other rebuttals?
I absolutely agree with Yan. Having the special elections on November 4th and the runoff on December 30th, 5 days after Christmas, 2 days before New Year, low turnout. with the expected cost about 13 million for the runoff, and maybe for this primary, we may have a little subsidies from, because Governor Newsom is in a fight for Prop 50. But we can have another election in June. Let me run some back envelope calculations. The cost is over $20 million just for this primary runoff. But divided by the number of years that we on the divided by the salaries, we're looking at about 65 to 70 years of how this election costs, the equivalent of 7 years of the salary of the assessor.
Thank you. I do believe we have an election on November 4th, so the voters will select the next assessor. I also agree. I wish that we didn't have to incur this cost. I'm not sure Brian's estimate is correct, but I also agree with Brian that I wish we didn't have to pay these costs as a county for this election. We don't know yet if there will be a runoff, but I agree. I wish we did not have to pay those funds. But as we move forward and we think about the assessor's office, let's make the right decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll be moving into our final question and then having our closing statements. It's actually an amalgam of quite a few people have been asking about your positions on Proposition 13 and Proposition 19. Don't know if you're comfortable stating your positions. You've made it very clear that the assessor's office has a role of assessing, not of establishing law, but nonetheless, you're being asked for your positions on these two. Position 19, I'll remind you, was reassessing inherited property to market value. I think it was last year that it was on the ballot. Brian? If you want to restate what, and maybe I didn't paraphrase it correctly, if you want to restate what Proposition 19 was, be my guest.
I would absolutely support the vote, the intentions of the voter. Prop 19 was Prop 15 was created to protect seniors, to protect their home. As an assessor, I would have no say in the intention of the voters, but I will, as an assessor, whatever the decision that the voters already made, I will honor that, and I will defend it, and I will honor that with fidelity. So as long as the law is on the books, I'll continue. As a private individuals, I support Prop 13.
Would you like to make a comment on Prop 19? No, for sure.
None at all.
Okay,
the end of the
that's
day is we want to support the decision by the voter. The public's already supported. It's the job of the assessor to honor that
Okay.
and execute exactly that manner.
Yes, thank you. Lisa?
So I agree as the assessor, we don't have the ability to change the laws that were voted on statewide. And, I don't have the authority or ability to change Prop 13. It's been in existence for over 50 years. And unless the voters decide to change it, I will continue to implement and enforce it as your assessor. On Proposition 19, that went into effect in 2021, and it was an attempt to make some changes to Prop 13. And I will tell you, in our office, we're still educating and informing real estate professionals and residents about what this means. For example, two big changes for Proposition 19 are the intergenerational transfers are now limited to your primary family home. And one of the changes was it capped it at $1 million. These are two significant changes from Proposition 13. Another change with Proposition 19, I know there are a lot of seniors here, and there was a seniors group here earlier. Under Proposition 19, you're now able to transfer your base year value of your home in any California county to another California county.
Yes, I support Proposition 13 because it is the current state law. It protects homeowners as well as small businesses. Regarding Proposition 19, there are pros, pros and cons regarding this proposition. Depends which side you're on. And to me, if I can change, I would change, intergeneration estate transferring. I think it should be keep the Proposition 58 so that the property can still be transferred, generationally. So that's my personal view. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebuttals? No? In which case, we're going to proceed into your concluding statements, which originally were on the agenda for 1 minute. We have a few minutes, so I'm going to extend that to 2 minutes. Don't feel obligated to fill all two, but please give us your concluding statements, and we'll start with Yen.
I just want to say thank you again for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. I hope I have demonstrated I'm the best candidate who qualifies to be the next county assessor. I have exceeded the minimum requirement to work in this office with some most professional training and hands-on experience in the appraisal field. I'm the only state licensed appraiser in this race. I will bring transparency and accountability to this office. That's why 10 out of 15 mayors in the Santa Clara County, along with many community leaders and members, have endorsed me. With my years of experience in technology and public service, I'm ready to lead this office from day one and will bring this office to the 21st century. This important office should not be handed down by a political insider. It should be earned. At the end of this day, this office is about serving you, not politics. I'm Yan Zhao. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. And thank you again so much for sitting through our forum this evening and asking your questions. Very much appreciated. As you've heard us say a couple times now, this is a very important office. And because of its importance in the county, especially during these budget uncertain times, it is even more important that we have someone who is ready on day one based on qualifications and experience to lead this office. And as we've said, it is not a political office. I am proud to have the endorsement of several assessors in the assessor community, or former assessor Larry Stone, and also the assessor who served for 29 years before Larry took office. So the most recent assessors have endorsed me, and that's because they recognize that this office is very specialized, and we need to make sure that we have someone with the right knowledge leading this office on day one. I've also been endorsed by your own Councilmember George Casey, who was here earlier, and these endorsements are based on the fact that they know my leadership. They know my regional leadership. They know I'm able to implement and take action. I'm not someone who just says things. I'm not someone who just holds title. And I'll continue to lead the office very similar to how I started last year to move us forward with modernizing the technology in the office to better serve you. So I respectfully ask for your vote as we move forward to ensure that this office continues to serve you and it's governed well. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, wrap it up.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. The fact that many of you are very interested in this elections, and the special election, really means a great deal to me. It means that you care and that we have opportunity to make a positive difference. You're going to hear what you have heard from both of my colleagues talk about why they're the best candidates or the best represented. They can be ready day one, and I always can say the same thing. But I think here's the real difference. This elections isn't about how many endorsements we collected, which is great, and we all have our own endorsements. But this is not a political job. This election is about change. Are you comfortable with the status quo? Are you comfortable with the directions of the numbers of appeals going up, the additional delay, and consider that as reasonable? If none of you are considered 700 days delay is acceptable, then you want change. And I would like to be the person to carry that change. If we can do it intelligently, if we do it fairly, accurately, and consistently, and how we assess, and we can reallocate our resource efficiently, we can make those appeal days go lower. And every one of us have the duty to make sure that voice, so that we make improvement. If you're happy with the 29, 30 years being in office, and consider that status quo, and then when you're ready to retire, you choose the next assessor, and then it's automatic, and it costs us approximately over $20 million for these elections, which will continue on for the next year. If you're comfortable with that, you can stay with the status quo. But if you think that we need to make improvement, I would like to be that person to carry that change. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you for your applause for the three candidates. Thank you for joining us in our Almaden community and giving us the advantage of being able to interact with you personally. We'll take a couple minutes now to change the stage over to our second agenda. And thank you again for attending and have a relaxing few minutes. Okay, thank you. If you want to take this one. Yeah.
Oh, we had fun. Drank a lot of beer. So, well, this is very interesting. So they said, no way. It's way too much. Rest of it, we stayed outside of Jamaica, and we also stayed. Well, we didn't spend much time in Nicaragua, all down in the Chinandega area. No, it was the Legionnaires Christ. They're missionary, they're literally Catholic priest. And what they do is they build schools. So primarily, we went to build, house or school. Awesome, yeah. Anyways, it was fun. We loved it down there, but that was it's not a big now. Well, like it was. I think. How many? 20. Yeah, so we went 16, 17, 18. All right. Not up here. What are you gonna? Be right.
It's good to see everyone socializing, being neighbors, good neighbors. Let's take our seats. In 1 minute, we'll start the second half of our agenda this evening. If you'd like to continue some of your conversations, we ask that you take them out into the lobby. Thank you. Take your seats, please. As we launch into the second half of our agenda this evening, we'll be discussing the special ballot items, Proposition 50, Measure A. Please refer to the agendas on your tables, kindly prepared by Michelle this evening, which repeat both the candidates' bios as well as the rest of the evening's program. In the second half of our program this evening, we will be covering the Proposition 50, State Proposition 50 and County Measure A, both on the special ballot taking place on November 4th. We will be taught this evening by two guests, Bill James, the chair of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party, and Dave Johnson, chair of the Santa Clara County Republican Party. I will take this opportunity to remind you or explain to you that Almaden Valley Community Association is a non-partisan, non-profit organization. We bring you together for education and conversation, not to represent a stance. It's an opportunity for you to learn and to meet. And so once again, we are a nonpartisan organization. We're very fortunate to have two speakers who are very well informed on the issues and will give us a context and a perspective on them. It is not pitting one party against the other. Again, they are here to teach us and to inform us and to give us a perspective. And I thank you in advance for being willing members of our community and doing that. The protocol is very much like the first half, the first agenda, and that is each presenter will initially speak for 2 minutes on each of the items, the ballot and the proposition, and then we'll answer questions for 1 minute each. I will lead off with a couple of questions and then I'll open up to the floor with questions also, again, with 1 minute answers. I'd like to remind you that you submit your questions by writing on the cards on your table and holding them up in the air for our runners to collect them. I respectfully request that you improve your handwriting. It's hard to multitask up here, so that would be appreciated. So this evening, the Proposition 50 and the Measure A will be explained and analyzed by, as I mentioned, Bill James, the chair of Santa Clara County Democratic Party, and Dave Johnson, the chair of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party. Oops, did I say that? A Freudian slip? I'm glad we can laugh. Their bios. Bill James holds degrees from the U.S. Naval Academy and Stanford Law School. He has served in the Navy, practiced law, and remains involved in community service. Dave Johnson was born and raised in Santa Clara County. He has been in the commercial construction business for 40 years and owns his own construction company for the past 15 years. These are very shortened bios. Feel free to expound on them. The first item that we will cover is Santa Clara County Ballot Measure A, a proposed sales tax increase. Measure A is a proposed general sales tax increase of 0.625 or 5/8 of 1 cent for 5 years. It would raise the countywide sales tax from 9.125% to 9.75%, not counting city or district add-ons. It requires a simple majority vote to pass, more than 50%. It was placed on the November 4th special ballot by the County Board of Supervisors, who declared a fiscal emergency due to federal cuts to Medicaid, social services, and hospital funding. However, it is a general tax. The funds go into the county's general fund, not legally earmarked for a single purpose. It is estimated to generate about $330 million per year in additional revenue. I now turn the mics over to our guests. Bill, would you like to lead us off with a 2-minute presentation on Measure A?
Sure. Sorry, that's loud. Yeah, so Measure A. Measure A is a response. Measure A is a responsive measure. In our own household, if we had an event that caused us to lose a bunch of revenue, to lose an asset, we would do, a couple of things. We'd tighten our belt. We try to repurpose some of our assets and resources to fill the gap a little bit, and we'd cut back on our consumption of that area. In Santa Clara County, we're going to lose about $1 billion a year from our healthcare system. Our healthcare system is supported by revenue streams from a lot of sources. One of those is Medicare. There's also Obamacare and other kinds of insurance. And it is a complex and interdependent system. When the government takes $1 billion out of the Medicaid budget, it doesn't only hurt poor people, it hurts all of us, because we close hospitals, we make it harder to get to a hospital if you're in an accident, we lose services, we lose professionals, and the rates for the rest of us will all go up as those patients are lost. So about $1/3 $1 billion is the amount that this tax is meant to fill in. We're hopeful that a new administration will reverse the cuts that have been made. And so this is a measure that will sunset naturally in 5 years. It is proportional to the loss. It includes measures of austerity needed, but also raising additional revenue to try to preserve our healthcare system as we go through an extraordinary loss of the resources as a result of the Trump Big Beautiful Bill cutting Medicaid.
Dave?
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for having us. Okay, so Measure A is being promoted as necessary to support the hospitals, but it's really, as you mentioned, it's a general tax, not dedicated to any specific operational component in the county. So they can apply the money wherever they want. The county health system's role is to provide medical services to the safety net population, low income and uninsured citizens in the county. In fact, they do provide all levels of medical care to 25% of the county population and 50% of all trauma services in the county. Republicans support these compassionate safety net services. In 2022, however, spending by the county on its hospitals was $3.5 billion. $3.5 billion in 2022. The current budget for the county health system in 2025-2026 is $7.3 billion, roughly 50% of the county budget. In other words, in 3 years, the amount of money dedicated to the hospitals has doubled. And it's running, like I said, 50% of the budget of the entire county. The population in the county during the same period of time is flat, or perhaps, depending on who you talk to, about 100,000 people less than it was during the pandemic. Why is Santa Clara County the only county in California making a money grab via this massive sales tax increase versus, as Bill mentioned, acting fiscally responsible? If Measure A is approved, no hospitals will close. What will close with a sales tax increase are more small businesses. Lower income people are going to be forced out of the county, and the elderly or those who are on fixed incomes won't be able, they'll be severely impacted by another sales tax increase. I live in Campbell, and I'll talk more later. Thank you.
Would you like a rebuttal?
Just to say that all of us have access to the county healthcare system. If you are badly burned in a crash, if you have a stroke, if you have a heart attack, there are many hospital services that are available to all of us. So they participate disproportionately in the safety net services, but there are some high-end services that all of us have access to.
Dave, you want a rebuttal?
It's available to everybody. I agree, but only roughly 50% of the people in the county use it. You also have another healthcare system called El Camino El Camino Health, which is also supported by medical groups and insurance providers. So you actually have two viable systems, this being one of them. And I'm not sure that I can justify as a business owner the increase in sales tax to cover the cost for something I personally have never used.
A question. What other alternatives to raising taxes have been considered? For example, cost cutting, efficiency improvements, and other revenue sources. Dave?
Well, I would start with cost cutting measures. What you have is the top 50 salaries working at the county health system all make at least $800,000, with the top earners earning over $1 million. The county likes to stack their budget with extra money to hire more people, which they may or may not ever fill those positions. The county also, on average, spends 40% more per employee than other healthcare systems in the state. And I wonder why that is.
So the amount that's being cut is $1 billion. About a third of that will just be cut. Those will be cut. And another third will be money taken away from other services to support the county hospitals. And the sales tax is just a third. It's a proportionate amount. The county is going to cut the budget in response to these cuts. It's a balance between austerity and raising additional revenue for a short time, and after the 5-year period, it automatically sunsets and will end.
Thank you. A question here that I don't understand, maybe you do. Why is the 1 billion being lost specifically? Bill?
So the 1 billion is being lost because the big beautiful bill cuts $1 billion from it cuts gazillions of dollars from Medicaid, and the consequence of those cuts are a loss of $1 billion in our system.
The way I heard it explained, and some of us who are here were in the council meeting, the number that was going to be lost on an annual basis was 300 million, not $1 billion. But if you add 300 million enough times, you'll get to $1 billion. The increase is 330 million a year, which is 1 point, whatever it is, 1.4 billion. So you're losing 1 billion and you're raising taxes by quite a bit more. The problem remains, why did the budget double? And if you doubled your budget in 4 years from 3 billion to 7 billion, I think you have the ability to tighten the belt and save $1 billion.
Bill, do you want to follow on?
Just briefly, Dave's mentioned a couple times that the budget has increased, and of course it has. The county stepped in and saved rural and underserved community hospitals from being closed. So there's a trauma center on the east side. The county stepped in and maintained that trauma center. If you're on the east side and you have that accident where you're badly burned, you're going to want to have access to that, to those services. Folks in Gilroy, Morgan Hill, they also have a right to have access to services such as maternity care and other health care in their community.
Well, I would say that all the hospitals that you're mentioning were all purchased prior to COVID. So that was already absorbed in an earlier budget. What I can say is that the county during COVID made extra hires to accommodate, all the shots and everything, and they never let those people go, and they want to hire more people, but we don't know what for because the demand is not as high as it was during COVID, nor should the budget be.
How does Santa Clara County's sales tax rate compare to other counties in the Bay Area and in the state? Dave?
Well, I was just telling Bill, I live in Campbell. We're already at 9.875. And with another 0.625, that puts us at 10.5. And if there's a transit tax next year, that'll put us up at around 11. And honestly, I don't know where all the other counties are. We're trending higher. We also have a high cost of living. So I'm not going to speak about the other counties, but I will say that if we all are concerned about the high cost of living, and yet somehow we can always justify to make it higher.
So currently Santa Clara County has generally lower sales tax than other Bay Area counties. And in adding the 5/8 of a cent of the Measure A would make some communities like Campbell that have local sales taxes higher than some other communities in the Bay Area. But in general, we would still be sort of in that cluster of Bay Area levels, which is lower than LA, more than in some of the rural counties.
I believe that Michelle in the handout broke down the sales tax, the local sales tax. If you want to see some of the details on that, it's on the handout on the tables. Can you tell us when other tax increases have actually sunsetted? In other words, this is planned to be sunsetted in 5 years. Can you give us some history on others that have actually?
So I don't have these in mind, but it's not an optional thing. Basically, if the voters could extend the tax if they chose to, but it would be up to the voters in 5 years to do that.
There was a Measure A, I don't know, maybe it was 15 or 20 years ago. Some of you who've been around a long time probably remember. And I want to say that they raised the sales tax for a certain period of time to widen either Highway 85 or maybe it was 101. I don't remember. I do remember, however, that after it was a shock because they actually did sunset that tax at the end when the construction was finally done. So there is an example of it happening. Most people I talk to with regard to this current Measure A are saying probably not. We're going to sunset.
Going back to the point about it being a general tax, and testing transparency, given given that it is a general tax, what measures are in place to be transparent about the use of the generated funds toward the express medical purposes or not? It's rather jumbled.
Well, all the arguments for Measure A always reference the hospital, 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 hospital. But even the measure itself, the language of the measure says it's a general tax. Now, a general tax, as we know, can be used for anything. Based on my experience with the county, anything means anything, and it doesn't designate. So, for example, what if the county wanted to decide that they're going to use some of that money to implement ranked choice voting? And if you know what that is, you will say that I would not approve of that. But here's my point, is that we don't know what that money is going to be used for. I think the fact that they're saying it's for the hospitals, because there is a revenue problem with the hospitals, but saying it is, but making it a general tax means it only is a 50+1, and they can use the money for whatever they want.
So there's been litigation about the nature of the tax and how it's been designated, and that's the county's prevailed on all of that. There's high transparency and accountability in the budgeting process for the county. You can read the entire budget, every line of it, and if the supervisors were to do something inconsistent with the will of the voters, it would be at their peril, because they're accountable to the voters every 4 years at their election time.
Thank you. I think this is directed toward you, Bill, and it is quoting an incumbent Bay Area politician. Trying to save democracy by destroying democracy is dangerous and foolish. Democrats have stood for fair and free elections against gerrymandering and a universal suffrage. It's a betrayal of the party platform. You care to comment?
That one's a Prop 50 question, I think, not
Oh.
Measure A, but yeah, should I address it now or we can come back to it?
Your choice.
Okay. Well, why don't we come back to it? I mean,
Thank you. And there's some question about whether belt tightening in the local medical facilities with regards to serving undocumented residents will get more consideration. Dave?
That's a really great question. And it's one that nobody wants to talk about it. It's like the elephant in the room. My understanding is part of the reason that the federal government was cutting Medicare money was that a lot of that money was going to for illegals. And if you have, it's such a touchy subject, but if they're illegal, why are we paying for their health care? And I know we have to be compassionate on the one hand, but on the other hand, are they paying into the system? Because we all are paying into the system, and it doesn't seem right to me that we should pay for somebody, the service for somebody. I want to be compassionate, but have compassion. But that's the toughest issue, is that if they're illegal, we shouldn't necessarily be footing the bill.
So first, we could have an immigration debate. I object to the word illegal. No people are illegal. All people are valid and human and have human rights. Everybody knows that you have to be documented to have access to Medicaid. Nobody's on Medicaid who's not documented. It's simply not true. And it is the case that if a person needs emergency care and shows up at a county hospital or El Camino hospital, no hospital can turn them away. That's a matter of law and compassion. And I don't think any of us would want them to not be able to receive emergency, life necessary birthing care. It's something that will happen whether or not we have Measure A.
This question also addresses a comparison between county health and private hospitals. How do the cost per employee for county hospitals compare with Kaiser, Stanford, Sutter, et cetera? Bill?
So one would have to be careful in comparing the county hospitals to private systems for a wide number of reasons, including the fact that the county system does care for more challenging cases and in a more challenging population. So I don't know those numbers, but I do believe our hospital system compares well to other county hospital systems in the state.
Well, the numbers that I quoted earlier were from a gentleman that I know who's on one of the hospital boards. And his numbers were that county hospitals, not necessarily private medical systems, county hospitals, Santa Clara County Hospital, the average employee is 40%. The burden, now I don't know if that's because they're run by unions, I'm not sure, but the burden and the employee cost per employee is quite a bit higher. And I don't have any comparison with private health or medical groups.
And with that, we will wrap up the discussion of Measure A. If you have any concluding comments you'd like to make before we move along to Proposition 50, now is your opportunity.
Well, I'm going to say it again. The county medical health system, they don't have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. And before I give them any more of my money, I'd like to see a full accounting, and I'd like to see them tighten their belt as Bill suggested. That's the right thing to do, given that the budget has doubled in just 4 years.
So I'll just say that it's a temporary measure. It's proportional to the loss of revenue that we've had. We do expect the loss of revenue to be temporary when the government changes again. And so just encourage people to vote for it. The hospital system for the county is it is a asset that we can all be proud of, and it does cost money to have good government services, which we do.
Thank you. And we'll move along now to the ballot Proposition 50 discussion. The Proposition 50 proposes a constitutional amendment that temporarily replaces current congressional district maps drawn by the Citizens Redistricting Commission with maps drawn by the California legislature for the U.S. House of Representative elections in 2026, 2028, and 2030. It gives the state attorney general the power to defend it in court and assigns the California Supreme Court exclusive jurisdiction over challenges. Would each of you take 2 minutes and educate us on your perspective on Proposition 50? Bill? Oh, wait.
Okay, so Proposition 50, like Measure A, Proposition 50 is a temporary measure. It's proportional to a problem that's arisen because the President of the United States asked the governor of Texas to change their districts. Their legislature changed their districts in the middle of a census cycle in an effort to avoid having happen what we expect to happen in 2026, which is at least a Democratic House being elected. It's very common for a president's party to lose seats in the midterm election. The president and his political team know that. Even if you believe in President Trump's policies, which I don't, but if you believe in them, you would have to admit, realistically, it would take time for the things that he says will happen to happen. And so I think that the election in November of 2026 is going to be very favorable for Democrats. And I think the president does too, which is why he did what he did. So I appreciate Governor Newsom for coming up with the idea of countering that with basically the same maneuver. We're doing the same thing that they did in Texas, exactly the same number of seats, and we're doing the same thing that they did, which is just changing their lines or proposing that the lines be changed in a way that would increase our representation. It's important for California. California is at a great disadvantage right now. President didn't send emergency funds to help the people damaged by fires in Los Angeles. He sent the National Guard to Los Angeles and created a bunch of chaos down there that didn't need to happen. And we do not have adequate protection and representation in this current government. So we're going to increase our representation, get a Democratic House, and have a check and a balance against the president that the current Congress won't provide.
One of the things that I hear over and over and over is how what Gavin Newsom is doing in California is somehow connected to what's happening in Texas. And I couldn't disagree more respectfully, of course. What happened in Texas was some redistricting that was done in 2021. And that case, it was in Galveston County. That case went to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, who upheld the decision to redistrict based on Black and brown neighborhoods being put together for a particular purpose. In 2022, that case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overruled the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, mandating that Texas reverse the districts and other districts that had been previously gerrymandered. And so, since Biden was president during that time, nothing was going to happen. And all Trump did when he came into office was he had his attorneys go look and say, can we do it now, since it's already been established by the Supreme Court? Now, that's a different case in California with the temporary putting on hold of the citizens, the duly elected citizens, California Citizens Redistricting Commission. I want to pause and just say that for all the talk we hear about no kings, let me tell you about no kings. No kings is having a county that shuts you down, your business, and doesn't let you go to work unless you have a critical, your critical business, or not letting the kids go to school. No kings is shutting down an entire state for the better part of 2 years while going out to the French Laundry with your donors. So I think I'll get back to it later. Thank you.
Please hold your applause. Oh, do you want to follow on?
Yes, Biden didn't do anything to keep Texas from redistricting. It's just not true. It wasn't Biden's job to do it. It shouldn't have occurred until the end of the census.
We have a question here about transparency. What were the mapping criteria for the new districting map? And were the draft maps published for review and public input? Who led off last?
I think Bill did. As far as I know, the answer is no. And even when the measure came out, I think it was still another few days. And if I'm wrong, Bill, please correct me. The fact of the matter is the maps were drawn by legislators who are all Democrats. And I think that certainly when going back to my comment a minute ago about kings, when you circumvent the state constitution, to get back, and then to get back at what Texas is doing. And then the other thing I would say is California currently, you have about 40% of the people in the state vote Republican, yet we only have 17% representation in Congress. And if Prop 50 passes, that representation in Congress could go down to as low as 7 or 8%. With a population, again, that votes about 40% conservative or Republican.
So, of course, the same can be said of Democrats who are represented in Texas. And so these maps, I mean, we're basically in the middle of the biggest massive public hearing on maps that could ever be held. We're having a statewide election. You can look at the maps now. You can see what you can see everything about the maps, all the demographics of the districts that have been drawn. And you can decide whether you want to approve them or not. Voters are approving them. That didn't happen in Texas. Nobody asked Texas voters whether they wanted to change their districts mid-cycle. Instead, the legislature just did it. And so voters are now having the opportunity to have their say in terms of whether we're going to change these districts or not.
Thank you. What safeguards are in place to ensure that the new maps are not gerrymandered for partisan advantage or incumbency protection? Bill?
So thankfully, the new maps are gerrymandered for partisan advantage. That's the whole point. So these maps comply. They follow a good lizard-like shape, the old south way instead of an east-west way, causes there to be more. Is there something wrong with this?
I heard that. They're the ones to the left. Yep. Oh. Okay, now try it. He has to turn it on if it comes.
Oh.
Yes. Use the green. Yes, it's on.
So, yes, so these districts are intentionally drawn to have more, to result in there being more Democrats elected. So in that sense, they are gerrymandered. And so that's no one's hiding that.
Well, I think you just made my point. If they're gerrymandered to favor Democrats, why are we having the discussion?
We're having the discussion because Texas gerrymandered their districts in the middle of the cycle to have 5 more Republican seats. And the only way to keep them from doing that in a bunch of other states is to show them that every time they do it, we're going to do it too. And so Democrats, can I answer the question about the card from the card? The question on the card was about damaging the democracy in order to save it. We're in a pretty unusual period right now in terms of what's going on in our country. And some people like that and other people don't. For those of us who don't, we don't agree with what's happening, and we're not going to play by one set of rules while our political adversaries play by a different set of rules. That's just not fair to expect that. It's not reasonable to expect that. And the only way that we can have nationwide balance is if something is done in these Republican states, then we're going to do it as well in a Democratic state.
Well, currently, see, if I didn't say it earlier, I will congratulate the Democrats on historically being experts at gerrymandering. So I find it humorous or mildly entertaining that the first time that the Republicans were even getting close to successfully doing it, that's a problem. What we have nationwide, there are 10 states, 10, that don't have any Republican congressmen. Now, admittedly, some of those states are quite small, but some are not small. Some are sized enough where if there had not already been gerrymandering, there would be Republican congressmen representing those states. The largest of them is Massachusetts. And so there's no perfect answer, but I will say that if you have 40% of the vote in the state and you only have 4 or 5 congressmen, that's a problem.
So one thing I think we can agree on is that, I won't say we can agree on that. What the Democrats are saying is that the rules should be same for everybody. Joe Lofgren, a member of Congress representing this area, Senator Padilla, our California senator, recently reintroduced legislation that they've introduced numerous times before that would have every state in the union use a citizens commission like California's commission to do its districts. If everybody did that, then Republicans in blue states would have more representation, Democrats in red states would have more representation, and the same rules would apply to everybody. So I'm in favor of that, and I think we could get to that point after this bit of a cycle.
It's good to see agreement. A technical question. Will the Prop 50 redrawing impact state elections or just U.S. House of Representative districts? Yes. Will the redrawing proposed by Prop 50 impact all state elections or just U.S. House of Representatives?
It's just the House of Representatives for the 26, 28, and 30 elections.
Great. Is it true that the law in Texas allows the assembly to redraw? I'm just reading.
I don't know the answer to that question. I just try and focus on California in general and Santa Clara County specifically. So
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but that is what happened, and no one said that that's not allowed. So I think that their legislature, together with their governor, must have that power in their state.
I was simply reading the writing.
I'm going to just go back to what Bill said a minute ago, though, about this citizens. It's funny, though, that you would be in favor of the temporary putting on hold of the Citizens Redistricting Commission, although it's a great idea to have nationwide. So which is it?
It's simple. It's a great idea to have the same rules apply nationwide, and the citizens districting commissions should be nationwide. And if Republicans in Congress agreed to it and the president signed it, it could be law very quickly.
This is more a statement than a question, rhetorical. Is it democracy when the same voters and same election numbers result in dramatically different outcomes, depending on lines on maps? Feel free to comment or not.
Not sure I fully understand the question.
Not a question.
The statement. Well, here's my statement that's along those lines, and that is, I always ask people this, and that is, can a bird with one wing fly? And people say, what are you talking about? You're out of your mind. No, think about it. Can a bird with one wing fly? The answer is no. What'll happen? It spins to the ground. It'll crash. Well, what we already live in, both here in Santa Clara County and in California, is a bird, a political bird that has one wing. And the one wing wants to be bigger at the expense of the other wing. And the political bird, and the way our Constitution was designed, was that the political bird should have two wings. And that's what I'm saying, is that we want it to be a little bit more fair. If we had 40% representation in Congress in the state of California, I'd feel a lot better. So would a lot of other people.
But just again, it should be fair for that same rule to apply in every state. There are Texas Democrats who would like to be better represented than they are. And it's not true that the Republicans don't gerrymander. Ohio is highly gerrymandered. Mississippi is highly gerrymandered. Missouri, North Carolina. These have only a handful of Democratic representatives and many more Democrats in proportion.
Someone brought up the point that a lawsuit has been filed against the Texas redistricting. How does the California proposed redistricting depend on that?
I'm not sure. The lawsuits can move kind of quickly sometimes, but sometimes they move slowly. I don't have the language in front of me. The California measure is specifically contingent and only comes into effect if the Texas redistricting has occurred and is in place.
I guess my only comment would be that there's already been some lawsuits filed against the circumventing of the state constitution. I would imagine if the law here in California, if Proposition 50 passes, there'll be a whole host of additional lawsuits that are filed. And like Bill said, they can either move real quick or not. We don't know.
It's true. Some lawsuits have been filed and rejected about Prop 50. I don't think that any lawsuit will be successful because in California, the people do have the power to change the Constitution through their vote and to change their minds.
But are they voting it by approving Prop 50? It's two things. One is to circumvent the Citizens Redistricting Commission, and the second would be to approve the gerrymandering. But there's only one thing that you're voting on. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I think that lawsuit's already been lost, but you know it is in the power of the people to either approve or not approve Prop 50.
No kings.
And at that, we're going to wrap up the evening with statements from both of you. 1 to 2 minutes stating your position and further educating our audience. Why don't you leave off, Dave? On Prop, well, actually, yes, on Prop 50, or if you have any final comments on ballot measure A.
Well, I guess I'll start since Bill started before. No, I think I'm not going to go 2 minutes on this, but you never know. You never know. We are in a very precarious situation in the county. I'm going to start with Measure A, where the cost of living is continuing to go up, and and the people who can least afford an increase, whether that's elderly or people who don't make a lot of money, they have to pay a higher percentage, right? So that's called a regressive tax. And that, as I mentioned also about the hospitals, they're spending a tremendous amount of money. I don't know that can justify doubling their budget in just a very short period of time and then not being able to tighten their belt. Does not make sense to me. On Prop 50, as I mentioned again, I feel strongly, as Bill mentioned, with just some of the, Republicans are underrepresented in California. And if Prop 50 passes, we'll be even more underrepresented. And we can see the way things have been going here, both in the county and statewide, with crime and the district attorneys who don't prosecute crime. You have retailers leaving in droves, and we have to put an end to that. We just need a little bit of common sense. And I urge everyone here to vote no on Measure A and no on Prop 50. And maybe we can all work together at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you. So, I'd like us all to work together and to have a different kind of politics than we have right now. I do think that it's President Trump who's bringing us to this place. And I think that both of these measures, Prop 50 and Measure A, are proportionate, temporary responses to things that have happened, either been done by President Trump or have happened because of him. And I think that the world will change in 5-10 years in ways that I hope will be better. Measure A is a sales tax. The county can only do a sales tax. They have no power to give us any tax other than a sales tax. It's the one tool that they have available to them. It would be better if the Medicaid cuts hadn't been made, because the Medicaid cuts are funded by federal taxes, and those are progressive. And I think, again, in 5 years, when the sales tax is scheduled to sunset, hopefully Medicaid will be back to where it should be. I think Californians will pass Prop 50. I believe that Santa Clara County residents will pass Measure A because we support the hospital system and we support other county services, homeless services, the sheriff's services, the prosecutor's offices. The hospitals are a big part of the county budget, and that's not a bad thing. That is a public asset. Healthcare is an important human right. And by controlling these hospitals and running these hospitals, our county is ensuring that our residents have access to health care. It's a basic service, it's a basic human need, and it's the right thing to do. And I think we'll be able to fund it through more appropriate channels over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we collectively thank our 3 candidates and our 2 teachers, I have a few announcements to make. One of which is to acknowledge that one of our candidates, Brian Doe, was misrepresented with his degrees. The wrong Brian Doe's resume was cited, taken off the web. Our Brian Doe this evening has degrees in economics and in finance. Sorry about that, Brian. Okay. I'd like to remind you that our program next month is a very festive event. It's our annual Giving Thanks event. It's the second Monday of November, November 10th, when we'll acknowledge volunteers making a difference in our community. Please join us on that second Monday of November, because it's a very delicious and festive evening where we celebrate the positive in our society. And with that, let's thank our 3 candidates and our 2 teachers for the evening.
Hey, David and I are thinking we're not qualified to be teachers. Thank you to the Almaden Valley Community Association for regularly having very substantive forums like this. I appreciate being invited and having the chance for us to chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
And drive safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Come back.